How great is our God.
When you need a prayer to lift your heart, that can be enough of a prayer to move you into the truth of your being. We're going to talk a little about truth this morning. When you are meeting a new friend or sharing with somebody for the first time that you come to Unity on Sunday mornings, and before you can even get another sentence out, they say something like, "Oh, I know all about that Unitarian church. There's one up the street from me." No. So when you're having those conversations, sometimes it's good to have the 30-second elevator pitch. And while we're not a doctrinaire church, we do believe in some very specific things. We believe some transformative ideas for our lives. And Sky has created an acronym to help us remember 5 key teachings in the Unity movement that sum up all that we believe and are useful tools for remembering the truth of our being so that we live from this power of God within us. Now, the acronym is OOMPA. One presence, one power, mindful co-creators, prayer and meditation, action is essential. It is not a polka class. But I like to come at it, we do this talk every year. And I'm doing it today because, Sky's gone and he doesn't always like to do the same thing every year. And so I get to do this and I like to play with this subject. So my talk is OOMPA. Yeah, but... because there's always that place in us that wants to argue with the truth, right? So we're going to argue a little bit today and see what we learn along the way. There is indeed one presence and one power, and we speak to this every Sunday morning because this is so central and core. And it's what allows us to open the doors for all the paths to God, that will believe it ultimately there is only one creative power in the universe that operates in my life, in the Sikh's life, in the Presbyterian's life, in the Muslim's life, in the Jewish life, in the pagan and Wiccan life. For all of us, there's one central creative energy moving, and that when we connect with that, we can experience not only the greater truth within us, but this sacred presence within everybody, no matter what their path is. So we say on Sunday morning that God is all. That goodness is in all. And we mean it. Yeah, but what about evil in the world? If there is only good in the world, how come the news is so full of murder and people trying to overthrow one another and power over people? Well, because we humans can screw up any good thing. Isn't that true? Yeah, say it. Preach with me, brother. We can screw up any good thing, but we know and we claim, and when we stand in this truth that there is only one creative force in the universe, and that's God, then what we see around us, reflected in our human experience, we can know that we had a part in creating that. Maybe not me individually, but in our humanity, we misunderstand and we misapply these powerful spiritual teachings. So I can use the force for good, along with Luke Skywalker, or I can go with Darth Vader and use the force for ill. But the universe and God didn't create that. We live in the field of duality when we live in our mistaken ideas. So evil exists because the collective we brought that into our human experience. But there is one enduring, positive, creative, complete force in the universe. We know that to be true. And so when we stand there, our lives are connected to that only good and all good energy. Yeah, but terrible things happen. Terrible things do happen. And how can that be in the face of there is only good in the universe? Well, we again trip up in our human selves, misapply the laws, and put forces in motion that we don't even always understand until we stand in the midst of the terrible experience in our life. And I kind of think there's some truth to the fact that, stuff and life just happens. and we get caught in the hurricane of it from time to time. Even in the midst of what is tragedy, if we say, there is only good in this universe, and there is only good in my life, then in the midst of what is horrific or terrible, sometimes we get to see even the silver lining in that. We can extract the gift from the difficult circumstances of our life when we are making a choice to see the energy of good. Sometimes you have to sweep away the mud, yes? Yeah. Sometimes you got to slog through the dirt to find it, but all of it's a choice that we can make to live in this power and idea of only good in the universe. Jesus said it this way, the Father and I are one heart and mind. We are always connected with this energy of love, of wisdom, of creativity and inspiration, always connected to the voice of guidance that speaks quietly within us. It's always there, but we need to be awake to its presence within us. It is about choosing to live in our spiritual nature rather than only our human nature, to marry those two together. The second O is original virtue. Unlike some doctrines that teach we arrived here on the planet as sinners and we are always struggling uphill somehow to reclaim who we are, what we teach in Unity is we arrived here in grace. We are created in the image and likeness. We can be nothing at our core but the same truth of that Creator. We arrived here with gifts and abilities infused from our very soul with a mission to create something beautiful in our life and in the world. And when we connect with our original virtue, we can bring that seed forth from our soul and indeed create something beautiful in the world. We are moving in original virtue. Claim that. Know that's the truth of your being and live from that place. Yeah, but humans don't always act divine. No, I haven't always acted divine. And so hopefully I've had the courage to apologize if I needed to correct something I needed to correct, to learn something new from the experience so that I can move forward in a larger expression of the truth of me. Yes, we don't act divine upon occasion. But in us is the divine light and the divine love that we were seated with. And we just have to become aware of that presence again. In neuro-linguistic programming, they teach a technique where if you want to change your behavior, it's here in front of you. Say, oh, thank you, no, I think I'll try something new. Turn around and here you are at a fresh opportunity to try something else. So, okay, I didn't act very divine today. I leave that go, and I choose something new in my life and my experience. We are creatures at choice in our life to create the more that we see, even when we fall short. Ha! We have met the enemy, and it's us! Oh, dang. But we get to choose again in every moment. Don't you love that there's not only wisdom to be found in sacred texts, but comic strips can be sacred texts as well? This has been very useful in my life. And a more traditional source, some of the wisdom that Jesus spoke. He said, I'm only quoting your inspired scripture where God said, I tell you, you are God's. So when I look out here on Sunday morning, when I come on Wednesday evening for the prayer circle, what I know I am seeing is that presence and life of God. I'm looking out at a room full of godlets this morning, and you shine bright. Remember that. You came to be, and you are here to express the light that is God within you. Yeah, but what about this salvation thing? You know, in the other churches, they're always telling me that I got to move through this sin thing, and Jesus will be my Savior. I'm here to tell you, Jesus has saved me on more than one occasion. When I have recognized, oh, that's my human side, and that's not working so well. Me and the ego are having a little trouble today, ego. Me, and if I will switch back to my spiritual self and then embrace both sides of who I am, I can stand in this place of wisdom and create from there. I can choose again and move more confidently in the world as the truth of my being. So, about every 15 minutes a day, I figure I get saved. Because I have a chance to say, does that serve me? Do I choose something differently? If I've made a mistake, sin is simply an error in judgment. Do I say, oops, and let me try that again from my divine self? That's how we move toward this embedded divinity that we are, to choose again and again, to be saved again and again by these teachings, by the wisdom they offer us, by the roadmap for living life. Yes, I'll take salvation. It just doesn't look maybe like my grandmother's Baptist definition of it. But there are many ways to get to the top of the mountain. So when somebody asks me, do you believe in the salvation of Jesus in unity? I say, absolutely. I'll be racking them up again today because I still have a desire to live in my human self far more than I really live in my spiritual divine nature. I'm working on it. We are mindful co-creators. One presence, original virtue, mindful co-creators. We know that in this image creation of God that we are, there is an imprint in us that allows us direct access to the Creator. Our mind is a link to the infinite intelligence of the universe when we use it properly. And when we use our mind as a creative tool aligned with the Force, not with Darth Vader, then we are tapping into that creative power and shaping our life for its highest and best, which allows us to influence the world around us for the highest and best. When we use the power of our thought as creative force and our spoken word as vibration of that creative force, then we are aligning with the Creator and choosing to move in the direction of our highest and best. There is an imprint in us that knows the way when we will touch it and listen. And one of those places we touch the mind of God is through our own mind. Oh, yeah, but look at what's going on in my life. I really didn't choose this. I didn't create this mess. Yeah, you did. Dang. One of our colleagues in our close team here in the church, we spend a lot of time together partnering in our spiritual journey. And one day as we sat around the table, this one person said, I just cannot believe that I am here in this spot in my life again. I know I didn't create this. And I went, really? Okay. But I want you to know I'm really surprised at my plan. Because we had a plan. Maybe it wasn't a thought-out plan. Maybe it wasn't a plan from our divine self, but instead from our ego self. Maybe it wasn't an entirely conscious plan. But the next time you say, how did I? Oh, I remember. Had a part in this. I set this all in motion somehow. And you get to redirect and recalibrate and say, no, I don't think I'll choose that, but let me choose again. And you get to use this great gift of our intellect combined with our spiritual nature to be the creative force in your life as well as the world. Dr. Masaru Emoto gave us a perfect example of this. He's a Japanese scientist who believed in the power of thought and word. And he set about to demonstrate this very clearly. He went to a very polluted lake in Japan and took a water sample, froze the water, sliced a section, looked at it under the microscope, and this is what the crystalline water structure looked like from a very polluted source. Now, he believed in the power of the spoken word to impact the physical world, literally. And so he took the container of the polluted water and he wrote out a prayer message of healing of the water, for the healing of the water, of wholeness, that it could return to its natural state, that the energy of God and love flowed into this water. And he taped that message around the container and he let it sit for 24 hours. He went back, took another water sample, froze it, cut the sample, and looked at it under the microscope. This is the same water from the same source, the same sample, responding to the positive energy of healing, wholeness, and love. And you say, well, fascinating. I don't really have a lab and the technology to take frozen samples, slice them, and put them in a slide and do that whole microscope thing. Do not have a microscope in my closet. Your lab is this body. 70% water. Do you think we do not impact our physical being with the power of our thoughts and our words? We do in every moment. So I invite you to be mindful, co-creators of this great power that exists within you, and then test it right here in your own lab. Start pouring words of appreciation and healing and love over your own being and see how it responds with vibrant energy, with youthfulness, with health overflowing. You can shape this experience in your life just as we can shape our outer experience. Prayer and meditation is how we come into communion with God. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, our co-founders, had a direct experience of the power of prayer healing Myrtle from the illness of tuberculosis in a time when there were no medical treatments other than separation from the population. She set about through prayer to reshape her life and her body, and she was completely healed. Now, she was in her early 40s at that time. Myrtle lived into her early 80s in a time when that disease was most assuredly a death sentence. Prayer and meditation is the way that we reach into this great creative force. We invest the time turning inward to be in communion with that from which we have come forth so that we can be aligned with that energy. It's not enough to know that the imprint is within us. God awaits our awakening, our invitation to be in this co-creative experience, because we have a choice to live life in any direction we choose. But aligning with the presence of God and being mindful of the gifts of our creation, we choose anew. Yeah, but, this sounds like surrendering to God. I don't like that whole surrender idea. Surrender often comes with connotations in our contemporary culture about power over someone else, about being used as a doormat, run over the top of, somebody bullying us. Surrendering is laying down and giving up. Well, for me, what often helps me get a better handle on the words that have sticky connotations for me is to look at their original meaning. And surrender came from Old French, which means over, and to give back. Now, what if you stood in a place in your life of giving your beingness, yourself, back to the wisdom of God? What if you gave yourself back into the full expression of love that God's presence allows? What if you gave yourself back into the creative inspiration of God speaking guidance to you? I can surrender into that full experience of God that lifts me into a powerful place. Yeah, but why pray for others? Why not just focus? This is my spiritual journey. I'm on my path. Why not just focus on that? Have you ever noticed how your own life can seem confused and muddy But, walk over to this person right here, and man, you can see exactly what they ought to be doing instead of where they are right now. Is that the truth? Can we spot it somewhere else much more clearly than in ourselves? Well, our AA friends have a saying about that. You spot it, you got it. And so when we recognize that this is true for all of us, this is just our human psychology at work, how do we work with that? How do we employ that for our benefit rather than our undoing? Sometimes focusing the energy outward in service or in prayer gets us to step gently to the mirror that is being offered us. And there is great wisdom in the world that says when one is raised, all are raised in consciousness. So not only is our prayer life meant to connect us more deeply with God, but it is, think of it as service to humanity to come here on Wednesday evenings and sit in the meditation, to offer a prayer request for the affirmative prayer section for yourself or for others, to put the names of those you care about into the prayer box. Or how about this? Put the name of somebody that really is a troubled relationship in that prayer box. And begin to bless the life of somebody that has been a real challenge for you. Because our people who challenge us, if we will open our mind, they're our greatest teachers. That's why we pray for others. Sometimes we reach outward so that we can come back inward. Action is essential. Mr. Fillmore believed that all of these principles were of no use if you just sat and meditated on your belly button. Well, I'm not sure Charles had that language, but it wasn't enough to simply reshape our own life or be concerned about this vehicle and what's going on with me. What is required to complete the cycle of our spiritual journey is to take the face of God out into the world and be in service. To see that face of God in the others around us in every moment. To ask inside, what's mine to do today? With the life I am given, the energy I have, the gifts God implanted in me, how do I make use of that not only for myself but in the world? It's a simple question to ask. What's mine to do today? To invite that experience of being the face of God in action, to be the compassionate hands and feet of God in service, to be expressing the love of God. Sometimes what's mine to do today is as simple as the gift of a smile. Sometimes it's sharing the resources you have when you're touched by the news about the Philippines and you decide to use your credit card and make a donation to the Red Cross. Sometimes it's getting up off your chair and coming here to the prayer and meditation service because God gave you a little shove in the backside. Whoa! Okay, I think I'll go, God. Yes, I heard that. Sometimes it's just easy to ask and hear what the answer of your heart is telling you. In the Philippians, whatever you have learned or received or heard from me, put it into practice, and the peace of God will be with you. The peace of God comes to us the more we step outside of ourselves and offer a compassionate hand to another. The peace of God comes to us when we practice all that we know in our spiritual wisdom in our daily life. Because it's not enough to have the library of spiritual books on the shelf. But you have to extract the wisdom, place it in here, and then step into the world with that knowledge. Yeah, but the news is so negative. Nothing I do is going to have any impact. We are subject to what we hold in mind. So if you believe what the news is telling you, you will get more of what the news is telling you. You can listen to CNN, constantly negative news, or you can change the dial to Discovery. You can change the dial to travel. You can even change the dial to romance. It doesn't matter. Just get off the constantly negative news and you have made progress. To choose another frequency for your life allows you to take the next step up the ladder of your growth. Action is essential, and it doesn't matter what the news is telling you. If you recognize that you're sitting in a job that has no satisfaction for you, and you know you have gifts to be shared in the world, but the news says the economy's terrible, this is a really bad time to be looking for a job, you can choose CNN, or you can choose the power within you to align with your perfect calling and keep looking until you reach that which you are calling for. CNN, or what God would offer to you in your experience, what God would co-create with you. I gave up CNN a long time ago. Now, the real voice within the unity movement that has power for many of us is Myrtle, the co-founder, Charles' wife. Many people say that Charles was the intellect. We might not have a movement if it hadn't been for Charles, but it wouldn't have ever gotten started if not for Myrtle and her faith that through these principles she could heal her physical body and change her life, and then she began to touch other lives. So for me, Myrtle is often the best place to end any discussion. And Myrtle would tell you today that Spirit intends you to be a radiating center that will draw to you whatever you need to be well and strong, successful and prosperous. Spirit intends you to be a lighthouse, a radiating center, a dynamo of energy, of love in the world. Are you going to say no to that call? You may be called in big ways to shine your light, and you may be called simply to offer a compassionate hand and a smile. Myrtle says you are meant to be a radiating center. You are sitting here now. Let the dynamo spin as you go out into the day. Suit up with me and say yes. Yes? Suit up with me and say yes.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
So the way we're going to do that going forward is we're going to come together in a moment of quiet, an inward reflection where we ask this question: God, with all that I am, your perfect creation, your divine light, and all that you have given me, the gifts, the ability to be connected to your wisdom, I ask in my heart today, what is mine to do? Where do I go in this next moment? Show me. Take this question, what is mine to do? And join me in the silent communion with God.